One day when Joseph was doing his work, Potiphar's wife came forcefully to get Joseph to sleep with her. And there was a struggle, and Joseph left his garment in her hand. This is the second time that Joseph is losing his garment. The first time, his brother stripped it from him. The second time, he left it in Potiphar's wife's hand. The garment in that case represented the fact that he worked for Potiphar. But that's not what God called Joseph for. God did not call Joseph to just be the beloved of his father. Hence, he got stripped of that garment. God did not call Joseph to work for Potiphar. Hence, he loses his garment again. In Genesis 39, verse 20, we're told that Potiphar's wife falsely accused Joseph of trying to take advantage of her, and Potiphar was upset and put Joseph in prison. Rejection again. He ends up in prison. And in Genesis chapter 40, verse 1, we are told that the king's chief butler and chief baker angered Pharaoh, and Pharaoh sent them to prison. That's where Joseph met them. While they were in prison, to cut a long story short, both the chief butler and the chief baker had dreams, and they could not interpret the dreams, and they were troubled about it. But Joseph had the gift to interpret dreams, and he reached out to the gentlemen and he explained their dreams to them. He told the chief butler that in 3 days he will be restored to his position as the king's cupbearer. But unfortunately for the baker, he told the baker that in 3 days he will die. Joseph's interpretation of the dreams came to pass. Nevertheless, after Joseph told the chief butler his dreams, he told him, please get me out of here. After the butler's dream came to pass, the butler forgot about Joseph. Rejection again. Then in Genesis 41, verse 1, the Bible says, 2 years later. Again, this reinforces the third point I mentioned about rejection. Timing. Wrong timing is the reason why sometimes we experience rejection. At the time Joseph reached out to the butler to get him out of prison, even though the butler was out, that was not the time that God had appointed for Joseph to come out of prison. Nevertheless, it was 2 years later. Genesis 41, verse 1. Pharaoh now has a dream, and nobody could interpret his dream. In Genesis 41, verse 9, the butler now remembered Joseph, which lets me know it wasn't that the butler just forgot him. I'm like, forget you, I don't care about you. He just forgot. But 2 years later, letting us know it was a timing issue, he remembered Joseph, and he referred Joseph to the Pharaoh. And Joseph came up before the Pharaoh, explained the dream. The Pharaoh was impressed and decided to make Joseph the governor of Egypt. The dream Joseph had in Genesis 37, verse 5, came to pass 13 years later. And to commemorate this event, guess what the Pharaoh did? Not only did the Pharaoh put a signet ring on Joseph, he dressed him with linen. Now he's finally dressed the way he's supposed to. He's dressed in a manner that is representative of who God called him to be. I went through the spiel to let you know that God uses rejection to strip you from who you are not in order to strap you on with who you are. The process Joseph went through, the rejections he went through from his brothers, from Potiphar's wife, was all designed by God to get him to his rightful place. Remember, I told you that God uses rejection as a vehicle to drive you to your destiny, whether that destiny means to go somewhere, to be with someone, or to do something. For Joseph, the somewhere was Egypt. The someone, if you read Genesis 41 verses 42 to 45, part of the people that God was leading Joseph to, aside from Pharaoh and the Egyptians, was his wife, Asenath. Not only did Pharaoh make him the governor, Pharaoh gave him a wife. Rejection led him to his wife. And your destiny includes doing something that God has called you to do, and in Joseph's case, to be the governor, to manage and administrate Egypt. Being rejected is not the end of your life. In fact, it's a beginning. It's a means to an end, and that end is your destiny. I hope that all I have shared this past few weeks has helped you understand not to cringe when you get rejected. Please don't misunderstand me. It doesn't mean you're not going to be hurt. It doesn't mean you're not going to cry. It doesn't mean you're not going to be disappointed. But knowing that God is in control, knowing that God is using it to navigate you toward his plan for your life will help you overcome it. And knowing this, you can respond with faith, with hope, and love. And consequently, not only will you be able to successfully deal with rejection, you will get a great deal out of it. Rejected for a Purpose, How God Uses Rejection to Help You Find and Fulfill Your Destiny, is a great book. You can go to Amazon and read reviews and what people are saying, those that have read it. I encourage you to read the book. I've only shared just a snippet of what you can find in the book. The book will inform, inspire, impact you and any other person that you know needs to hear this. Thank you for listening through this series. Thanks for indulging me through this series. Thanks for listening. Thank you for subscribing. Thanks for sharing this with others that you know need to hear this. Thanks for your time. Until next week, take care and stay blessed.